This random wheel decides what theme park related topics I compare. Let's start with the theme park chains. And I think it's going to go up to Universal. It is. Now the question is, what is Universal going up against? And it's going to be Six Flags, pretty much the most opposite chain possible. So this makes for an interesting comparison. Universal is definitely more based around theming, and their theming is among the best of any theme park chain in the world. The rides and attractions at these Universal parks are very, very immersive, and they transport you into a different world. Universal has also mastered the art of making very thrilling roller coasters with very immersive themes. Take Velocicoaster for example. That's really the biggest similarity between Six Flags and Universal. Six Flags is built on thrill coasters. These thrill coasters are the reason we want to go to Six Flags parks, but often they don't have very good theming outside of a few exceptions. I know Six Flags is trying to attract families a little more with Celine Basul at the helm, but as of now, Six Flags parks as a whole are still best for the thrill seeker outside of a park like Frontier City. A big difference between Universal and Six Flags is the ticket pricing, but I think a lot of people would put that to the quality of the park that you're getting. Universal's quality is much, much higher. And because of that, I gotta say that in this scenario, Universal is the better theme park chain. While they don't have nearly as many parks, they have a lot of good rides in the parks they have, and they're building another one in Epic Universe. If some people think that Universal is better than Disney, then it's definitely better than Six Flags. Our next wheel spin has a bunch of Disney's best dark rides on it, and we're going to compare a couple of those best dark rides, starting with Tower of Terror. That's a great one. And going up against Tower of Terror is going to be Soarin' Around the World, another great dark ride. Just to avoid sounding like a broken record in this segment of the video, both of these are superb attractions. Let's start with Tower of Terror, and somehow I think this might be the first time I've ever talked about this ride on this channel, which is kind of crazy actually. We're specifically focusing on the one at Hollywood Studios, by the way, the Twilight Zone version. This is a drop tower, but it's no ordinary drop tower. As far as experiences on haunted hotels are concerned, this may be the only one that you genuinely enjoy. Now, spoiler alert for Tower of Terror, after your first show scene and you go up a little more, you actually go out of the first elevator and into a second elevator. While you're making your way there, they have some cool effects in the room you're in. If you didn't know too much about Tower of Terror going in, this would definitely surprise you. In fact, when we rode it for the first time a couple years ago, I don't believe my parents knew about this section of the ride, and they were absolutely floored. Of course though, the ride does have its thrills, like when you get that awesome view from the top of the tower and then have all those floater airtime filled drops. The airtime is amazing. As for Soarin' Around the World, this simulator is a lot more chill. It's a relaxing experience. I don't think it's anything too groundbreaking in the sense that a lot of flight simulators have you flying over famous landmarks, but I think Soarin' Around the World does it better than most. It's certainly not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. One of the best things about Soarin' Around the World is the iconic musical score. It's one of my favorite musical scores, movie, TV show, ride, whatever, anywhere. And there's also some subtle touches that make Soarin' better, like the air smelling like grass when you're in Africa. I also appreciate how they transition from scene to scene. It's not just a normal fade transition most of the time. Overall, Soarin' Around the World at both Disney's California Adventure and Epcot is a terrific flight simulator. Unfortunately though, I have to give the nod to the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror at Disney's Hollywood Studios, because when Soarin' is compared to a ride that good, it's just tough to beat. You can make a good argument that Tower of Terror is the best dark ride in the entire world. Our next wheel spin consists of a list of manufacturers, and we are going to start with Rocky Mountain Construction. RMC is really good at what they do, so it's going to be hard to beat, but the one company that could beat them possibly is Intamin. Who would have thought we'd get an RMC versus Intamin battle? This is good on good. Check that. Really good against really good. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to personal preference, like most of these, but let's start with RMC. RMC has a niche that other companies are still trying to compete with, the hybrid coaster. They can either do these ground up, or they can do it with the original method, taking an old wooden coaster that is becoming unpopular and turning it into a partly wood, partly steel coaster that's one of the best rides in the park. Evidently, this ride model caught on, because while Rocky Mountain Construction has only been selling roller coasters for a little over a decade, there are a bunch of these around the world, and none of them get bad reviews. A staple of RMC's up to this point is airtime. Lots of airtime, usually of the ejector variety. But RMC's aren't just airtime, they also throw in good pacing, smoothness, wave turns, and inversions. RMC's are just awesome, and currently my number one coaster is built by the company. Intamin, though, is no slouch. They've broken countless records during their time. They were the first company to build a Giga and Strata coaster, and currently they have the world's fastest and tallest coaster, not the same coaster. Intamin broke both of those records quite a long time ago, and no one has even tried to break them as of yet. The Swiss manufacturer is more than just record breaking, however. While they've had some reliability issues in the past, they seem to have figured a lot of those issues out as of recently. Their portfolio is bigger than Rocky Mountain Construction's. While RMC only has a couple fins to pick from, Intamin has a bunch. Their LSM coasters may be the best of the bunch, like Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure or Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. All this to say, it's super tough to decide which is better between these two companies. As of now, I think I'm going to go with RMC. As far as my personal experience goes, I haven't seen either of these companies at their best yet, and I can't wait to experience some of the more notable attractions. Our last wheel spin for today features a bunch of coaster models, and it looks like it's going to sneak into the inverted coaster category, which it is going to. What are we going to be comparing to inverted coasters? Family launch coasters. This will be interesting. We've seen inverted coasters built by a bunch of people. Intamin, Giovanola, and Vecoma's done some good stuff recently, but their SLCs weren't good back in the day. But I think the company that's really perfected it is B&M. Keep in mind, they were the first company to flip a coaster upside down while hanging under the track, and that was Batman the Ride at Six Flags Great America back in the early 90s. Those Batman clones have become insanely popular, but if you ride pretty much any B&M invert, you're going to have a good time. These rides are typically smooth, and they are multi-looper based roller coasters. The tough thing with these ones, admittedly, is if you don't sit in the front row, you really can't see what's coming. That's one of the bigger downsides. So while other companies make their own inverted coasters, I think B&M clearly makes the best ones. Now let's talk about family launch coasters. This is a pretty broad category, and there's a bunch of different types of family launch coasters. You have something more traditional like Slinky, or you have something more like a motorbike approach like Pony Express. The latter seating arrangement is a great way to make the coaster more exciting, even though it really isn't a very exciting ride to begin with, and that is exactly what Pony Express does. It has to be said that overall, family launch coasters are very enjoyable. They're approachable to families, obviously, but they can also satisfy thrill seekers depending on the ride. Take Manta at SeaWorld San Diego, for example. That's a family launch coaster, but some people argue that it's the best ride at SeaWorld San Diego even with the addition of Emperor. So when comparing it to inverted coasters, my gut is telling me to go with the inverts. This doesn't always apply though. I think the ceiling for inverted coasters is higher, but the bottom is also lower because the bad inverted coasters are really bad. Well, that's going to do it for this video. I know I've never really done a video like this before, and it's a little different concept than what I usually do, so I'd love to hear if you guys liked it down below. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. With all that being said, God bless, and I'll catch you guys next time.